Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into the Toronto Raptors season so far. It's been, well, kind of wild reading all these articles.
Oh, yeah.
The team, they're not doing great, but then you've got, Gradey Dick just lighting it up.
Yeah, it's a strange situation. You've got the Raptors at 2-10, can't
Yeah.
buy a win on the road, just loss after loss.
Right.
But then, you got Dick in his second year putting up these crazy numbers, and some people are even comparing him to like Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Quickly.
Seriously. It's like two totally different stories happening at the same time. So we're going to try to figure this out, like what's really going on with the Raptors. Is Dick for real? And then what about Barrett?
Good questions. I mean, those comparisons to the big three, they're fun. But you have to think, what happens when Barnes and Quickly are back from injury?
Exactly.
And even when they were healthy, there were already questions about, the bench.
Totally. So let's just, I guess, address the big thing. They're at the bottom of the East right now. Injuries to Barnes and Quickly. That's got to be a factor, right?
Well, yeah, it's never just one thing. Injuries don't help, especially when you're talking about guys like Barnes and Quickly. But even before they went down, there were people worried about the bench. They lost some veterans this offseason, and it shows.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so moving on to, the good stuff. Gradey Dick. That Milwaukee game, wow.
He was on fire.
32 points, 4 threes. He was driving, taking it strong to the basket. That was noticeable, compared to some of the other guys.
Oh, yeah, Dick attacking the basket, that's been huge for them. He's not afraid of contact, and that's why he's scoring so well. But then, later in that Bucks game, it seemed like he was maybe trying to do too much,
Yeah, I saw that.
kind of forcing it as the Bucks pulled away.
So is that just, rookie stuff? Or is this a sign that maybe teams are figuring him out?
It's probably both, to be honest. Rookies, they have ups and downs. That's part of it. But the real test is how he adjusts, right? Can he keep being aggressive, but also, pick his spots better? That's what he needs to do next.
Interesting. Okay, so you have Dick exceeding expectations, but then there's RJ Barrett. He's taken 84 shots, 5 games, made only 28. And this really stood out to me. 0 free throw attempts against the Bucks. What's happening there?
Wow. Yeah. That free throw stat is definitely saying something. Makes you think he's maybe not wanting to drive and get fouled. He's settling for jumpers and they're not falling. And then you add in the turnovers, 21 in those 5 games. That's a big problem for the Raptors.
Yeah, because those turnovers, they become easy points for the other team.
Yeah.
It's like Dick's doing well by being aggressive, but Barrett's struggling with the opposite. Is there a connection there, or are these just two separate things they got to fix?
Hard to say if it's directly related, but you can't ignore how different their styles are. Maybe Dick's success driving is making Barrett's struggle stand out even more.
So what's the answer? How do they get Barrett going again? Is it just confidence, or does he need to, change his game?
Well, confidence often comes from seeing the ball go in. So if he can get some easy baskets like driving or getting to the line, maybe that gets him going. But then there's the question of his role now, especially with Dick playing so well.
Oh, yeah, true. They're both young, still trying to figure out the NBA. The coach has got a tough job finding that balance for them.
For sure. And it's not just about Dick and Barrett either, right? We got to remember, the Raptors have some bigger issues, team-wide stuff.
Right. Can't forget about that. It's not just the offense. Let's step back a bit. You talked about depth before, and then there's the turnovers. 22 against Milwaukee, leading to 28 points for the Bucks.
Ouch. Turnovers always hurt, but even more so when you're not scoring much, they're already struggling, and then they give away easy baskets.
Speaking of struggling, the bench. Chris Boucher. He's in his last year, right?
Right.
But outside of him, not much happening there. Any solutions in sight, or are they going to have to make some moves, trades, or something?
It's early. Too early to say for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lack of scoring off the bench, that's a big worry. It puts so much pressure on the starters, and it's hard to build any momentum.
And another thing, just 4 free throw attempts, not counting Dick, in that Bucks game. Does that mean they're just not aggressive enough? Or are they having trouble finishing at the basket?
It's probably a mix. Some of it, like we said about Barrett, might be hesitancy, but it's also the other team's defense, right? If they're clogging up the paint, forcing tough shots, it's going to be hard to get to the line.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not always about effort. Sometimes it's the other team making things difficult. But Even with all that, there have been some bright spots. Davion Mitchell at point guard with Quickly out, his defense has been impressive.
Absolutely. Mitchell's defense is a huge plus. He's a lockdown guy, and that can really lift the whole team. The question is, can he be more consistent on offense? If he could hit that jumper more reliably, he'd be a real game changer.
We also saw some good things from Agbaji and Fernando on that road trip. Fernando especially, rebounding like crazy against Milwaukee, 13 rebounds in only 18 minutes. The Raptors could really use that energy off the bench.
Yeah, Fernando, that was encouraging. Rebounding, it's so basic, but so important.
Yeah.
And he showed he can be a force there. If he can keep that up, it'll definitely help the starters.
It's cool to see these young guys stepping up with everything going on. And you got to give the coach credit, right? Drago Rajakovic, he stayed positive, even with the losses, focusing on their effort.
Definitely. At 2-10, that can't be easy. But Rajakovic deserves credit for how he's handling it. He's focused on, developing the players, building the right attitude, even though they're losing.
And that's important because rebuilding, it takes time. You can't just flip a switch. It's a process, and it sounds like he gets that. But with Barnes and Quickly close to coming back, things are going to get interesting.
That's the big question now, right? How do they fit back in?
Yeah.
And what does it mean for Dick and Barrett? Will it all work out, or will there be some bumps?
We've already seen some potential issues.
Yeah.
I mean, like Dick and Barrett, they both need the ball to be their best. Then you add in Barnes and Quickly, who also like to have the ball.
Yeah, you're right. It's a tough challenge for Rajakovic. He's got to figure out how to get the best out of these guys individually, but also make them a team. It's a tough balance.
It's almost like a chemistry experiment. You have all these elements, and you got to find the right mix to make it work.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so interesting. The Raptors, they're a team in transition, lots of potential, but also lots of questions.
So what about the rest of their season? Another rebuilding year, or could they, surprise people and make a run?
Tough to say. Too many things could happen. But here's what I'm watching. How do Dick and Barrett adapt when Barnes and Quickly are back?
That's the key, for sure. How they develop, both individually and as a unit, that's what matters for the Raptors.
Yeah.
And, the bench. Can they step up and give them some support?
Those are the things that'll decide their season. It's going to be an interesting ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, so many moving parts with this team. But before we get too lost in the big picture, let's get back to something you said earlier about Gradey Dick and those comparisons to the big three, especially RJ Barrett. So Barnes and Quickly, they're coming back, probably going back to the starting lineup. What happens to Dick and Barrett then?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Two young guys, tons of potential, but they both kind of need the ball to do their thing. So it's on Rajakovic, the coach, to figure out, can they play together, actually make each other better?
And not just them, right? You got to think about the whole team. Can the Raptors find a system where all these key guys can play well without, getting in each other's way?
Exactly. It's like a puzzle, but all the pieces are always moving around. And the more you add, the more complicated it gets. But hey, sometimes those weird combinations, that's how you find something really special.
True. Sometimes the best stuff happens when you just let things get a little messy and see what comes out of it. So everyone listening, think about this. Barnes and Quickly are back. What happens to Dick and Barrett? Do they fit in smoothly, or is it going to be like a battle for who runs the offense?
It's a good problem to have, right? But it'll definitely shape their season. And it's not just about starting or who shoots the most. It's about taking all that individual talent and turning it into, a team thing.
And that's what makes a great coach, I guess. It's not just the plays. It's understanding all the players, what they're like, what they want, and then getting them to work together.
Totally. That's the difference between a good coach and a great one. Leadership, knowing how to talk to your players, and creating that atmosphere where everybody feels important and they can contribute.
All right, so as we wrap up our Raptors deep dive, what are your main takeaways from this team? Feeling optimistic about their future, or do they have a lot of work ahead?
I always find it interesting when teams are going through these changes. So much unknown, so much potential for growth, right? And the Raptors, with the mix of young guys and veterans, they're a perfect example.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get with them. And that's what makes it fun to follow their story.
Exactly. Always keeps you guessing.
So, as we head into the next part of the season for the Raptors, I'm excited to see what happens. It's going to be a wild ride, that's for sure. Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch it all play out. But before we let you go, I wanted to circle back to something we were talking about before. The comparisons between Gradey Dick and the big three, especially RJ Barrett. So if Barnes and Quickly are back in the starting lineup, where does that leave those two?
Well, that's the big mystery, right? You've got these two young guys, both with a ton of potential, but who both kind of need the ball in their hands to really be effective. So can Coach Rajakovic figure out how to make that work? Can they coexist? Can they like actually help each other's game?
And it's not just about those two, right? It's the whole team dynamic. Can the Raptors find a way for all their main guys to, succeed without stepping on each other's toes?
You got it. It's like imagine a puzzle, but all the pieces are always moving. And the more pieces you add, the harder it gets. But sometimes those unexpected combinations, that's how you find something really special.
That's a great point. Sometimes the best solutions come from, like, embracing the chaos a bit, see what happens.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, Barnes and Quickly are back. What do you think happens to Dick and Barrett? Do they fit right in, or is there going to be a, power struggle for who runs the show on offense?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's going to be a big factor for their season. It's not just about who starts or who takes the most shots. It's about finding a way to take all that talent, all those individual skills, and making it work as a team.
And that's, I guess, the mark of a truly great coach.
Yeah.
Not just knowing the plays, but understanding your players, what makes them tick, what they want,
Yeah.
and then getting them to work together towards that one goal.
Absolutely. That's what separates the good from the great. Leadership, communication, creating that environment where everyone feels valued, where they feel like they have a voice.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling, intrigued, excited to see what happens. The Raptors, they're a team with a lot of question marks, but that's what makes them so interesting to watch. Their story's still being written, we're all just waiting to see what happens next.
Who knows? Maybe this season will surprise everyone. Maybe these young guys and the veterans, maybe they'll click in a way nobody expects.
Maybe they'll find that magic, that right mix, and just defy all the odds. That's what's so great about sports, right?
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
For sure. That's why we keep coming back, that excitement of the unknown, the chance to see something amazing.
So to all our listeners out there, keep an eye on the Toronto Raptors. This is a team with a lot of potential, and this is just the beginning. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and don't forget the power of a good deep dive.